Ladies and gentlemen, this is David Mirikitani. Welcome to another episode of Weighing In with my good friend Mark Ostrander. We're made possible by USA Wrestling, the national governing body for wrestling in the United States, and sponsored by Nike Wrestling. Go to athleteps.com for all of your Nike and USA Wrestling branded gear. Mark, ton to talk about this week. I know we're going to spend a lot of time talking about the trials, men's freestyle. We got through the Greco-Roman and the women's tournament. But I got the list of events for USA Wrestling today. So I'm just going to read these off so people know. April 23 to 25, UWW Cadet, U15, and Future Nationals in Wisconsin Dells, Wisconsin. April 30 to May 2, which I will be at, the UWW Junior and Senior Nationals at Coralville, Iowa, right down the road from you. May 7 to 9, USA Wrestling Women's Nationals, UWW U15 Cadet, Junior, and Under 23 World Team Trials in Irving, Texas. The next weekend, May 13 to 15th, the Western Regionals in Utah. The same weekend, Northern Plains with Wisconsin Dells. The next weekend, the Central Regionals in Fort Wayne, Indiana. In June 4th through 6th, Southern Plains in Mulvane, Kansas. June 9 through 13 are the under 14 and under 16 duels in Franklin and Westfield, Indiana, respectively. June 15th to 19th, one of my favorite events of the year, the Junior Duels in Tulsa, Oklahoma. June 24 to 26 is the USA Wrestling Kids Nationals back in Wisconsin Dells. And then the Super Week, July 16 to 23, Fargo. So a lot of wrestling between April 23 and July 23.
Yep.
So a couple of things. Brady Burghy is retiring because of head injuries. Really great wrestler coming out of high school, just wasn't able to accomplish his goals because of injury, and I think that's always a sad thing to see.
Yeah, I agree. Good, good individual. Great wrestling skills, David. If it wasn't for the concussions, the knee injury this year at the national tournament, I have no reason to believe he wouldn't have been an All-American. Might have been in the semis.
Yeah.
So, that's too bad.
Yeah, for sure. Michael Kemmer is back for 7th year, put a really funny tweet out about becoming a doctor and things like that. And I think we're going to see a huge arms race this year. Almost all these kids at the big schools are coming back. Iowa's reloaded. Penn State was super young. And if Nick Lee comes back, and we're going to talk about Nick Lee here in a few minutes, they have everybody back. Oklahoma State, if they get gear, they'd have everybody back. Michigan picks up CJ Brucky and moves Miles Amin down to 184. That makes them better at 2 weights. They'll have Ragusin at 33. I had dinner with Kellen Russell up there. So that's something else that they'll be significantly better. I mean, basically no one loses anybody. But the big news is Max Dean is in the portal. So I'm going to pull up the bracket here. We'll do a little share screen. So for people that can't see this, Aaron Brooks was the champion, Trent Hidley was 2nd, and Parker Keckheisen was 3rd. And now you're going to blend in Miles Amin and you're going to blend in Max Dean. I think you and I talked about this ahead of time. It's pretty apparent. Aaron Brooks is 1. Keckheisen will end up being ranked 5, which is almost unfathomable when you take 3rd at nationals. But Amin took 3rd at a weight above as a multiple-time All-American and an Olympian, and Max Dean was a runner-up. Granted, he lost to a Northern Iowa guy, Drew Foster, but 2, 3, and 4 is going to be some combination of Hidley, Amin, and Max Dean. I think we probably agree on that, and probably not worth splitting hairs because they'll wrestle, and that's why they have the tournament. Who do you think would be a great spot for Max Dean to land at?
Oh, boy. Number one, who wouldn't want him? I don't care who you have in your lineup. I guess right off the top of my head, David, I look at teams that are in the hunt to place real high, possibly win it. Arizona State could use him.
Yeah.
Oklahoma State could use him.
If Gear
doesn't come back,
yeah.
I mean, he's legit. And, how about having Max Dean at 84 and Ferrari at 97? I mean,
sure.
Who would want to wrestle that lineup? So, I mean, plus the young guys that they have in there with Plots and,
yeah,
they're really, really good. And so there's a school that I could see really wanting him. Princeton could use him. I think he'd fit in well there. I don't know what Max wants to do education-wise, so that's going to be a big key whenever you recruit these kids, obviously, and we'll talk about recruiting in the next few weeks probably. You know, you got to have a fit for him. It's got to be a weight that he wants to wrestle at. He's got to feel like he has an opportunity to meet his dreams and his goals wherever he goes. So it'd be interesting to see what he does.
Yeah, and I don't know if he's a postgraduate. That's one of the things that'll probably shake out. But if he's got his degree, like that's one of the things we found out about Real Woods was he was working so hard.
Yep.
I think some people thought he was flaking off, you know, just taking the year off because of COVID and Stanford. And he was really doing the opposite, you know, taking a huge class load and trying to have a Stanford degree, which was hugely important to him and something very few people could even attempt to achieve because they don't have the test scores and the grades to get into Stanford, and then have that taken away from you because of the wrestling program being dropped. I mean, there's some rumblings they might have some hearing. I think that's just window dressing, but we'll find out. But you know, so but again, the same scenario where he's trying to be an undergrad, you know, get through his undergrad, then you can go anywhere unless you want to major in something like aeronautical engineering, and 4 schools in the country have it as an example. But like if you're going to get your MBA, there's almost every good wrestling school has some version of a business school. I mean, clearly they're not all the same, but an MBA is an MBA in the sense that somebody could take you. So, all right. We did not get into the men's freestyle trials, and we're going to do that now. So let me share screen again. And we will go into 57 kgs. So the first part of this story here, Mark, was Nick Ceriano testing positive for COVID.
Yes.
Now, I heard about it. I called Lee Pritz. He confirmed it. This was on Thursday. I was on my way to the airport, and you know, they tried like crazy, I'm sure, to get him a second or a positive test, or, you know, a negative test, excuse me. And that didn't happen. So everyone got bumped up a seed. So, and remind me at the end, we'll talk about our picks, but the bottom line is you were one more right than me. We'll go through, you had Gilman and I had either Dayton or Ceriano. I chickened out. You still won this one. So you're up 1-0 in the picks. But all the matchups we talked about really didn't happen. And the really disappointing thing was the forfeits on the back. So let's talk about the back first. Tomasello lost to Arujau in a really good match, 3-2. Then he beat Sean Russell. Then he got a forfeit over Joe Colon. And then he beat Zane Richards. Zane Richards, super weird, gets teched 11-0, gets a bye, gets a forfeit, loses 12-6, and takes 4th.
Oh, yep.
And then Cologne and Fix would have been tied for 5th, you know, and neither one of them even made weight. On the front side, so Gilman goes bye as the 1 seed, gets Zane Richards, beats him 11-0, beats Cologne 10-0. That gets him to the trials of the tournament. We'll get to that in a second. Cologne and Seth Gross had a 9-8 barn burner. And far be it from me to be critical, but I think Wisconsin threw their brick too early. They threw their brick and burned it. And it sure looked like Joe Cologne was exposed, and Seth Gross is begging the corner to throw the brick, but they didn't have one to throw. I talked to a guy I really respect, and he said, you know, it's easy to say afterwards, but when you coach a Seth Gross and you know he's going to get in these 20-point matches, maybe you don't throw the brick early. Maybe you save it for when you need it. Bottom half of the bracket, easy for me to say. Vito goes by, then beats Tomasello 3-2. And then beat Fix 7-5. He beat him 6-5. They threw a brick late that they lost the challenge. It was a YOLO challenge. They really didn't have a chance. But Vito ran off to a 6-0 lead, and Dayton just started really slow. And he got a bunch of 1-point pushouts, but he was going to have to get to 7 because Vito had 2 2s. Sean Russell wrestled Fix. Fix beat him 11-0. So before we get to the finals of the Gilman Vito, what were your thoughts on the bracket?
I thought Gilman wrestled really well. Not so much his last match, but we'll talk about that in a little while. I mean, he's wrestled Cologne, and they've always had really close matches. And, you know, he did his job. He was driven this weekend. And then Vito, you know, the last time him and Dayton wrestled, if I'm not mistaken, didn't he reel off 6 points also on Dayton? And Dayton came back and beat him pretty handily.
You know, you and I were talking about on the air, and I was talking to somebody about it there. That did, in fact, happen. At one point, he was up 8-2 in that match. And we couldn't remember if Dayton teched him or beat him by 8, but he scored like net 16 points on him.
Yeah. So changed his game plan, went out fast, scored a lot of points early, looked like he was cruising. And then Dayton does what Dayton does. He started to wrestle, came back and just, you know, ran out of gas, ran out of time.
Didn't run out of gas. Let's make sure.
No, ran out of time. Yeah. So
Dayton struggles with length. Yeah. He struggled with length with RBY, and he struggled with length with Vito. The difference is you can get some pseudo offense in freestyle just by pushing a guy out. And Vito got to his legs twice, really easy. I actually had that match. It was on mat 3, and he had 2 just dirty sweep singles, and, you know, was unbelievable. So we get to the finals. I actually had the first bout, and Vito went out 4-0 on Gilman.
Yep.
And I'm doing the commentary. I'm like, Gilman's coming. Like, just Gilman's coming, you know. And I think it was like 4-3 at the break, but it was almost like he would rather have been Gilman, you know, like, you know, all the momentum was on his side, even though he was losing. And he was losing on criteria because Vito had 2 2s. Vito got a takedown to a lace, and I think he could have finished the match, but Gilman was, you know, his head went out of bounds.
Yeah.
And then Gilman comes all the way back, and Gilman gets in the over-under and locks his hands and just pushes into Vito, like daring him to lateral drop him, and ends up getting the pin. I mean, he was winning by a ton when he pinned him. Like, it was winning by 3 or 4 and got the 4 for that move and then got the fall. But I mean, he was going to win, and we could have just held him there. And then the second match I didn't get to see because I was calling another mat. When I got done, there was about 30 seconds left. Vito was losing 2-1. He actually got in and pushed Gilman out of bounds and lost 2-2. Gilman must have had a 2, and Vito must have had 2 1s.
Yep.
And in hindsight, you're kind of going, why didn't he try to finish the shot? But I'm guessing you watched both matches completely. So especially the second match, what were your thoughts on it?
Gilman wrestled a completely different match, which I thought was tactically wrong, because the first match he wrestled, David, he turned it into a war, turned it into a street fight. And that second period, like you said, he pretty much just dominated him, was very physical, didn't give Vito any time to set things up. He was on him nonstop in that second period. Then he goes into the round 2, and he kind of let Vito do what he wanted to do, and he just wrestled defensively. So I think he could have opened it up. It could have backfired on him and might have put it into a round 3, but he was able to hang on.
I ran into Rob Cole and Mike Gray afterwards, and they said, hey, we wanted no part of a firefight the second match. So I think Vito probably adjusted as much as Gilman adjusted incorrectly. Like you're saying, I think Vito adjusted. And, you know, the thing is this, like, if you pin me or you're beating me by 10, there's not a lot of adjustments you're going to make to beat me by 20. You know, I mean, like, the easier adjustments are to make is if you got your tail kicked the first match.
Yep.
So, and Vito's really good. That's the whole thing. Like, it's not like, hey, one guy's a bum and one guy's really good, and like, man, you're just praying that something weird happens. I mean, Vito's got the best top game at 57, period, for men's freestyle. So
I think one thing we talked about earlier, this is probably a month ago, David, when we were looking at this weight, we were talking about kids that were going in the right direction, guys that were kind of going in the wrong direction. And we both agreed Gilman seemed like he was going in the wrong direction. But for some reason, he found something, whether it's in his coaching staff, his teammates at Penn State, got him fired up, and he wrestled completely different than we'd seen in the last say, month and a half,
Yeah.
coming up to the trials. So,
yeah. And Nittany Lion put, they got 4 people on the Olympic team, by the way.
yeah.
Gilman, David Taylor, Snyder, and Helen Maroulis. So, all right, 65. I wish I had put $20 on no Zane and no Yanni in the finals. That would have been a big payoff.
Yeah.
I did get this weight right. I picked Jo. You were wrong about a pick, but sort of really right. Like, I got to give you credit. You were wrong. You picked Nick Lee to beat Jordan Oliver.
You're right. I did.
But then he just beat everybody else. So
True.
I can't really give you trouble about it. Like, technically you were wrong. And, I'll take the W, but Nick Lee wrestled out of his freaking mind. All right. So, I think most people know what happened. Zane goes by 5-1 over Ashnault. Ashnault had beaten Nishan. McKenna had a bye. James Green got a bye. McKenna check-balled James Green. James Green just can't make 65 kilos. It's just, he's too big of a human being. He needs to go 70. He probably will never make an Olympic team because of the weights, which is not his fault. Yeah. But he's just too big of a human being. Jordan Oliver gets a bye. Nick Lee, tech fall, Mitch McKee went 8-3. Jo got the win. Frank Molinaro came out of retirement, beat Evan Henderson 10-1. Yanni teched him 10-0. Jo, let's talk about the Jo Yanni match. Okay. 4-4. And I've talked to a couple people, but I want to hear what your thoughts were on it.
Well, I picked Yanni to win the weight. And actually, after the first period of that semifinal match against Jo, I thought I was in pretty good position. I think it was 3-0 going into the second period. Yanni was pretty much doing what he wanted to do. Jordan never really got in on him. And I didn't know what he was doing because he wasn't attacking. He was wrestling more defensive. It wasn't the Jo that I'd seen in the past. But third period, when he had to
second period.
Yeah, I'm sorry, second period. When he had to score, David, he picked it up, and it was impressive.
So it was
he's as good as what he was advertised. I haven't seen him wrestle that hard, that long in a long time, if that makes any sense.
No, I get it. He was on mat 4. I was calling mat 3, and you're doing your best to do a professional job, and then the wrestling fan in you is trying to peek over. So, I didn't see a lot of it, but I saw Jordan was losing late 4-3, and then got in a leg and just ran him out of bounds. So obviously they either all had ones, or it was 2-1-1, 2-1-1, and then it was last point. Jordan slowed them. I know this from talking to coaches, slowed the pace down, didn't want it to be in a bunch of scrambles. I think the camp, the Kenny Monday, Coleman Scott camp, felt like maybe Yanni's a better scrambler than Jordan. Jordan's better in space, better in just, hey, fundamental, pick his feet up off the ground or run him out of bounds kind of position. So that was a big match. And then Joey McKenna beat Zane Rutherford. And probably the scariest thing was he kept rolling him through. Really, like, he had a game plan for when Zane got to his leg, little coal roll situation. And he did not look surprised or happy when he won. He was just like, on to the finals. So let's set the table then. Let's just talk about Nick Lee's pass to the back. And Nick Lee then beat Tech Fall Nashon Garrett, beat Zane Rutherford 7-4, beat Yanni Diakamahala 16-8. And this is after beating 2 weeks ago Sebastian Rivera and Jay Nyerman.
Yep.
So Nick Lee is probably the best really young guy at this weight. You can't. I watched the Yanni match, and that was not lucky. He beat him. And he beat Zane. So if you go now to the finals, and this is something that is interesting because, we're obviously all talking in between rounds out there. And we're like, man, Jordan Oliver blew Joey McKenna literally off the mat a year and a half ago in Texas. And somebody said, they go, hey, if Jo doesn't take it seriously, he's going to have a problem. Well, he did. He took it seriously, controlled the matches, won 3-0, 5-2. I heard from someone in his camp that he cut 18 pounds to make weight the second day.
I can't even imagine going out there in that situation, losing 18 pounds in one night.
Well, then he had all day to recover.
Yeah.
I mean, he made weight in the morning and had all day to recover. But I mean, just what
That's
I think that speaks to, though, is the seriousness of Jordan. Like, he's always been the guy that had this huge upside, and people are like, well, man, he's gonna make a less than best decision for him, right? And he's not going to show up on weight, or he's not going to have his cardio right, or his lifestyle is going to be less than perfect. And it seems like he has everything dialed in right now.
Yep.
I mean, I on Twitter, he's like, back to work on Monday, because he's got to now go qualify the weight in Sofia, Bulgaria, the May 7 weekend.
And that's not going to be easy to do, David. But right now, I don't know who else you'd want to go qualify the weight the way he's performing.
Well, whether you want somebody or not, he freaking earned it. I mean, I think some people thought going in that Yanni was our best chance to qualify the weight, and they thought he was our best wrestler. And I guess, I see that. I've known Jordan for a long time, like a long time. And I've always thought his best was the highest ceiling, but, didn't go that way. Okay. So 74, we'll kind of go through the bracket fairly quickly. Nolf goes by, beats David Carr 10-0, and then gets crushed by Kyle Dake in a match that can only be described as some version of a crime. I mean, it was unbelievable. Like 40 seconds, just picked them up and threw them around. Dake had Wick. Wick beat Gant and Marsteller. Marsteller beat Vincenzo. Nolf then beat Wick for true second. Now you have the match that everybody wants to see in the finals. I think everybody's seen this match. I don't know these matches. I don't know. There's a lot to talk about. Well, but I'll let you go, and then I'm going to tell you what I thought. Go ahead.
Let's talk about the parity at this weight.
There's no parity. There's 3 levels. Huh?
That's the problem. And we have some really, really good kids. Nolf.
Well, wait a minute. Time out.
Nolf 10-0.
Why are we talking about parity, and why are we talking about a problem when we probably have the best guys in the world?
We do have the best guys in the world. I just can't believe there's that much of a gap, because these kids are so good. Nolf being able to beat Carr 10-0. And we know how good Carr is. I mean, he's won world medals in the junior division in freestyle. The guy is a stud. Nolf beats him 10-0. Text him. I mean, it's like he's never done this before. And then Nolf goes out against Dake and gets picked up and just dropped.
Ragged out.
It's just amazing how good Kyle Dake and Jordan Burroughs are compared to everybody else in this weight. And we didn't even get to see Martinez because he was hurt. It was another really quality guy. So it's just, boy, I was really impressed with the whole weight. We have a lot of talent.
I don't see a problem. I see that. I think this is kind of like watching the NCAA basketball tournament, where like a 4 seed beats, like a 13 seed. And then, they get a 1 seed next round and they get killed. And you're like, they look so good the last time. It's like, there's just levels to the game.
Yeah.
And there's a huge difference between being like a state champion and then being like a national champion, even in high school, and then a national champion in college, and then a world medalist, age group world medalist, and then a senior team member, like the number 1 guy or the number 1 woman. So this is what I thought watching the Dake matches, the Dake Burroughs match. 1, Jordan is a little bit slower. I mean, I hope that's not blasphemy. He's just a half a step slower. Secondly, Dake dared him to shoot the double.
Yep.
And what he figured out was when you try to sprawl on that double, that's when you get in trouble. But when you go to chest wrap, and he's got the best chest wrap in our country at 74,
yep.
I mean, Burroughs got in there and didn't try to run through it. Like, he was worried about getting flipped either for 2 or 4, depending on how the referee saw it.
Yep.
I think it's the first time Burroughs has ever been shut out in match 1. Match 2 wasn't as close as the score looks, 3-2. Yeah, I think a couple more so the wrestling. I thought the class between these two guys was unbelievable. Dake didn't really celebrate. Literally, Jordan was sitting, and you see all the pictures like Dake's patting him, and he said he thanked him. Dake thanked Jordan for helping make him great, for giving him something to chase. I understand why they wanted to interview Burroughs right afterwards, and he handled it probably better than anybody else possibly would.
Yeah.
And, he said he'll be back. He's got another baby on the way. I could almost see if Dake medals, which I think he will. And granted, I have red, white, and blue, eyeglasses on, but I think that'll happen. I could see Burroughs going 79 for a couple years, like just not cutting as much weight, getting some more world medals, maybe gold medals, adding to his legacy.
Yep.
He's going to be training out of that Pennsylvania RTC with Brandon Slay, and he'll, be out there with Mark Hall and those guys. And then maybe coming down in 24, because we have to remember it's only a 3-year window now, not a 4-year window till the next one.
Correct. Yeah, I can definitely see that happening, David. And I think it'd actually be good for him. Who's going to beat him there? I mean, really, he's hard to beat where he's at now. I don't know. I really think it's a smart move for him.
I mean, there'll be some guys, but I mean, like Dieringer's probably the best guy that I can think of, and he's not healthy right now. That would be it that way. Because he wrestled Dake really close. I mean, it wasn't like he scored a bunch on him, but he was able to keep it close.
Sure.
And he's a bigger human being than Burroughs, but Burroughs is going to be just fine at 79. He cuts a ton of weight.
Yeah.
Okay. The 86 kilo bracket, otherwise known as the Penn State Open. David Taylor goes by 11-0 over Farr, 4 over Gabe Dean to make the finals. Farr beat Sammy Brooks. Gabe Dean beat Miles Martin. Bo Nickel beat Pat Downey, teched him. Then Bo Nickel beat Valencia in an insane match, which we'll talk about. Zahid had beaten Brooks. Nate Jackson made a good run on the back, lost to Brooks. Then he beat Farr. Then he beat Martin. Then he lost to Zahid. Zahid came back through and took third. Downey, to his credit, lost and picked up a bye. Tech falled Aaron Brooks and won by forfeit over Gabe Dean. So this set up, well, before we could talk about Taylor Nickel, because I don't think there's really that much to talk about, let's talk about Nickel Valencia. That match was insane.
Yeah, it was. And I thought Valencia was wrestling the perfect match to beat him. And then hit a beautiful high crotch on him, David. And I thought for sure he was going to be able to score off it. Did everything right. Was going to win the match, and it didn't happen. I mean,
yeah,
that's just
I mean,
you were there, you saw it.
Yeah, I had that
right
match.
In front of you. Why don't you explain what
I had that match, and the lead's going back and forth. Zahid gets out to a lead early. Nickel just goes big and gets the lead. Zahid's coming back. He's down 7-5, and he hits an outside step high crotch, and if he finishes, it's 7-7, and he wins. He had the criteria.
Yep.
And Nickel just hits a reach back whip over. And I mean, I don't even know if they threw a brick. I mean, sometimes you throw a brick, but there was like nothing to challenge, right? Like it was just perfect feet to back. It wasn't like Nickel exposed himself. It wasn't just hit it, 4-point move, and that was it. I mean, but watching those guys wrestle is super fun because it's like a puncher and a counter puncher, and they sort of bring out the best in each other. Zahid doesn't know how to not shoot 42 times in a match, and Nickel doesn't know how to just like block the knees. Like he's going to just hit you with crazy counters, and it makes for super entertaining wrestling. The finals, David Taylor 4-0, 6-0 over Nickel. I don't think there's a lot to say about this. I think the interesting thing is David Taylor is not going to be seeded at the Olympics. So he could catch Yazdani early. This is the whole thing when coaches go, hey, it doesn't matter if you're the best guy. And if you are the best guy, it doesn't matter for you. It matters for everybody else, So I think if you're the Russians, you watch how Gabe Dean wrestles David Taylor. He's the one that gives him the most trouble.
Yeah.
So
I agree. David, were you impressed that David Taylor did not give up one point this whole tournament?
I had heard stories that that Bo Nickel went really well with him, so that surprised me. You know, I don't think I would have been surprised if I hadn't heard what I heard from somebody who I thought was really reliable.
Yeah.
So, and they told me this in confidence, and but anyway, yeah. I mean, but he's really good, and he's like really good at. He doesn't do a lot of stuff that's like 2s and 1s and 4s and 1s. Like you get to his leg, and if you don't get to his leg the right way, you're better off not getting to his leg.
Yep.
Yeah.
But I mean, in the past, David, his matches were he give up some easy points because he was trying to do so many things. He didn't give up any points this tournament. He's changed kind of his philosophy a little bit, and he's wrestling very smart.
He's wrestling a lot more like a smart old man, right? I mean, he's bigger. His flexibility is a little bit different. He's yoked out of his mind now. He's, starting to lose his hair a little bit. I mean, he just looks like a different guy than the babyface kid, his full facial hair. He just looks a lot different than like the college sophomore that was just murdering everybody.
Sure.
Again, we're not going to talk about Jaden Cox here, but Jaden Cox was the story here. Colin Moore goes 10-0, 6-2, 10-0, and then frankly got smoked by Kyle Snyder. Kyvan Gadsden lost 2-1 to Walls, comes all the way back through and beats Walls to take third, and then wrestles Mike Machiavello for true third and hit him in that lateral drop and pinned him. So he makes the national team. I mean, I think kind of the big story here was Ferrari, besides, well, the really big story is Jaden. Then Snyder made the team look great, but Ferrari, he lost to Machiavello 3-1, and he lost to Honus 11-10. I know AJ a little bit now. I've done an interview with him to help out Bergen Catholic, and I know the Oklahoma State guys fairly well. I have no idea what kind of person he is 24/7, but he's a really good person to the kids when he's at an arena. Like he lost, he's signing autographs. Like could not be more personable. I think he's in that sense he's really good for the sport. So.
Yeah, we need more of that in the sport. He's entertaining, and people get excited when he gets there. And I know a lot of people don't like that he flexes and does the Hulk thing, but you know what? It brings different people into the sport, David, and we need more people joining the sport to enjoy it. And you have to have some showmanship with certain guys because it will attract a lot more people to the sport.
No doubt. So I don't want to blow by this. Snyder goes tech fall, shutout to make the team. But you kind of saw that coming. I mean, I'm sure he beat Colin Moore up when they were in college. And I mean, A, he's better, and B, he'd been putting them beatings on him. That's just a hard thing to get over. I mean, that's a psychological thing.
You're right.
All right, 125. This bracket, so we got to go back to our picks, okay? Because you got Gilman right, I got Jordan right, so we're 1-1.
Yep.
We both picked Burroughs, so we're even. You picked DT, I picked Nickel, so you're up 1. You picked Snyder, I picked Jaden, so you're up 2. And then we both picked Gable. So if Jaden had wrestled and won, we would have been tied. But you're up 2. So you win. So I owe you wins. No, you win, fair and square. And you should probably win like some extra ranch or blue cheese for how well Nick Lee wrestled, frankly.
I really should, but that doesn't count. So,
but I mean, I'll probably do it for you. So it's a pretty impressive call. So, okay. So Gwiz was the number 1 seed here. And there had been a podcast last week on a different outlet saying like Gwiz shouldn't be seated number 1 and Gilman shouldn't be seated number 1. I actually talked to that guy there and said, look, this was in the criteria for USA Wrestling. If you qualified the weight at the 2020 Pan Ams or the 2020 Worlds, you were the 1 seed. Unless you medaled and then you sat out till the finals. The Gwiz is the one. He beats Garrett Ryan 11-0. He beats Dom 6-0. Kirk Fleet beats Mason Paris 4-4. They each had 2 takedowns. Kirk Fleet got the last one. Gable goes by 11-0, 11-0. Okay. Mason Paris comes back through and takes 3rd. So, I mean, that was pretty impressive. I mean,
Yep.
Paris lost to Dom Brady, or he beat Dom on a really kind of, I guess there's a really controversial call at the end of that. I didn't see it, but I had a bunch of guys texting me. So Paris is on the national team as well. Okay.
Yep.
And you go to the finals of this thing, and Gable goes 10-0, 10-4. And I had the first match. I think this is just what we thought, Mark. I mean, like, this is where an extra year really helped Gable and really hurt Gwiz.
Yep.
Like, I don't know what would have happened last year. And I think that's probably, to go back to 74, I think Jordan getting a year older and Dake getting a year stronger helped. And Dake getting to study Jordan for a year, you know, with really no matches to worry about. You know, I think you're either on the good side of the hill or the bad side of the hill. And if you're on the bad side of the hill, time doesn't help you.
Yeah. You know, I don't know what else we can say about Gable. We've pretty much said it. He's made this, and he was so good coming out of high school, David, but we didn't see him losing. You know, a lot of us, you know, we had talked, we thought he'd be a 4-time national champ, and then he runs into Penn State. And a lot of people run into Penn State and find out it's just not that easy to do. He changed the way that he trained. He changed the way that he was living his life. Now you see the Gable Stevenson that we kind of thought we might see, except I think he's much better than that. I think, you know, I'm going to make a prediction. This may not be bold, but he's going to be your Olympic champion. And I know there's some really, really good guys out there. He will be the Olympic champion. He's just got too much offense, too much counter wrestling. These guys are going to shoot on him, and he's going to score off them. I'm telling you right now. I'm calling it. He will be the Olympic champion.
He's going to have to beat 2 hammers because he won't be seated.
And he will.
Okay. Let's say you're right. Here's my real question then. Does he come back to college or just go to the WWE?
Comes back to college for at least one more year.
Okay. I'll definitely take that second part of the bet.
Okay.
That if he wins, he's not coming back.
He's coming back.
Okay. Well, and when you say Penn State, let's put some respect on his name. We're talking about Anthony Cassar, and Cassar beat him at the Big Tens and then beat him again at the NCAAs. I mean, a couple things here. First of all, Gable's way more suited for freestyle than folk style. I mean, I don't think he has much interest in. He's good at it. Don't get me wrong, but I mean, I don't think like he really cares much about riding guys or getting out. I mean, he's a takedown, leg lace, gut wrench kind of guy.
Yep.
He's so explosive. His go behinds, you know, we talked a bunch on the air about this, you know, back hamstring chase and a lot of these things. And he's so fundamentally, I don't even want to say sound because that's not even a high enough compliment. He's really, really sound at really high level technique and can do it perfectly in high stressful situations. So, I mean, every 4 years you hear this thing, is this the most, will this be our best Olympic team ever? And, you know, it's hard to say, Mike, if you think about it. Like, first of all, here's if you're picking holes, okay? Gilman's medaled once, right?
Yep.
And had a really good draw when he did it. Jordan's not on the team yet, okay? Or he's on the team, but isn't in the Olympics yet.
Correct.
Kyle Dake's never medaled at 74. David Taylor's only made one world team. Now he won it. Snyder hasn't won the world since 2016 or 17, but he's lost the last couple of years.
Yep.
And this is Gable's first world team at the senior level. Here's the optimistic part. Thomas Gilman was a world runner-up. Jordan Oliver has a truckload of offense at that weight. That weight's absolutely stupid good, but he gets hot on any given day. And he doesn't have to make weight twice, I don't think. It's all on the same day. Kyle Dake just beat the GOAT. Hard to put, money against him.
Yep.
David Taylor beat Yazdani the last time they wrestled. Snyder's beaten Sajalayev. And Mark Ostrander picked Gable Stevenson. So it's glass half empty, glass half full.
Yep.
I mean, unfortunately, I think it'll probably finish somewhere in the middle as opposed to the glass all the way full. The women's team is super, super loaded with credentials. And as we get closer to the Olympics, we'll spend more time talking about that.
Yeah.
So it's, I just want to say, well, we got a couple minutes left. I just want to say that it's been super nice this week. Gotten a ton of text messages, emails, calls about the trials. I saw a post that said about 215,000 people watched it, which is apparently significantly less than the NCAAs, but still awesome to be a part of it and have the honor of calling some pretty big matches. So that was really fun. And want to thank USA Wrestling and thank NBC Sports and I guess NBC overall and how I was treated up there. And I think I speak for Nick and Mark and Shane. We were all treated really well, and I know we all enjoyed it. So it was a great experience, and hopefully I'll get to do it again in a couple of years.
Yeah, and then you'll be in Iowa, or you'll be at Coralville for the junior and senior nationals, right?
Well, they're world team trials.
Okay.
So
right.
It's a little bit different. It's technically, it's the junior. No, you're right. Junior and senior nationals. I stand corrected. You said it correctly. So yeah, I think there's a couple guys that I may be coaching and certainly going to cover from a media point of view too. So it'll be fun.
Okay.
So anyway, all right, let me get out of this screen share. Let everybody get a good look at you before we boogie. We want to thank everybody for watching, listening, tweeting, sharing. For Mark Ostrander, I'm David Mirikitani. We'll talk to y'all next week.